you implementing refeeds at this moment, or
Yeah, 1 to 2 a week.
did you start that at the beginning, refeeds, like
Yeah.
one a week?
Yeah, the refeeds for me are more social. I mean, they obviously help with the recovery and that type of thing, but the weekends, that's where the family is out and about. My wife's very spontaneous. I never know what's going to happen when I wake up on Saturday morning. Monday through Friday, it's a routine, right? I'm like that Monday through Friday normal bodybuilder, kind of has things set.
Yes.
Saturday morning, my wife's like, let's go.
Well,
Where
that's
are we going?
fun.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. And so it gets me out of a comfort zone because, like most bodybuilders, I'm a creature of habit. So yeah, it's spontaneous. So I like to have more wiggle room when it comes to the food side of things. So the refeeds they fit nicely on the weekends. So it's either 1 or 2. So I'll either do Saturday and Sunday, or I'll just do Sunday.
How low do your fats get during prep for the most part? Or is it different this season versus last or the previous seasons? Are you doing anything different than
At the
usual?
moment, I'm more of a creature of habit. So Monday through Friday, it's in that 30 to 35, 40 gram realm. I'm not one who likes to have carbs get too low because the adherence just isn't there. And I don't like to eat low carbs. To me, it's not very satisfying. I do want to feel like I'm eating something, like I am feeling some fullness there. And yes, hunger is part of the process. And this is something that I talk about quite often. It's like you're inevitably going to be hungry, but I don't think you want to get to a point. It becomes counterproductive where you start binging. I've explored like lower carbs, higher carbs, low fat, high fat diets, throughout the years. When my carbs, they get below 200 grams, I run into troubles. Those 1 to 2 refeeds now become like binges, not refeeds.
Hey, okay.
So that then is counterproductive. You got to find what you can basically adhere to. Right now, I'm eating around 1,800 calories in that realm, 17 to 1,800 most days now, as far as the low days. I can probably set that up as like, maybe it's like 200 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs, I have my fats around 50, 40, whatever. But I'm not going to adhere to that. For me personally, right now, it's like, it makes more sense just lower my protein down, more carbs in there, keep the fats a little on the lower side. Now I'm adhering to it and I'm able to sustain it, and I'm not running into any hiccups. I've explored with protein intakes. I know this is a big topic.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask.
Yeah, so I've explored, like back in the day in my 20s and 30s, my protein would be north of 200 grams. And on stage at that time, I was 160 pounds. Now I'm about 170. So it's plenty protein. Like we're talking anywhere between 200 to 250 grams of protein per day while prepping back then. And through my 40s and now into my 50s, it's been 160, 180. This prep, I've been averaging about 150.
Wow.
Some days 145. And I don't know, I still
You're
got
still
muscle.
there. Yeah,
It's still there.
Yeah.
So size-wise, I look basically the same. Like I haven't regressed. Protein's important, don't get me wrong, but I think as far as like high priority, it's the rate of loss. So back in my 20s and 30s, even though my protein intake was a lot higher, I was more aggressive dieting. Like I would lose, some weeks would be like two pounds a week every week, just really aggressive. So I'd get on stage 160 pounds. Yes, I was shredded, but through my 40s and now hopefully in my 50s, I could get on stage at 170. I'm retaining more muscle with lower protein intake. And that's just because of the approach. The rate of loss is a lot more conservative. To me, that's high priority. Is like, okay, what does that rate of loss look like? And it should be like a little more conservative. So half a percent of your body weight, 1% of your body weight per week.
Okay.
Now I would err on the side, like if you give yourself a 0.5%, it's conservative. You might diet longer to get to where you want to go, but it's like you're on the freeway. Instead of driving 100 and your car's like a little shaky, you're going 80 and you're cruising and everything's a lot more comfortable. It's a sweeter ride. So everybody correlates longer preps, longer dieting to like more suffering, but not so much, if you're pacing things out well.
Right. And maybe you can chime in here, but as you're getting older, how much muscle are you really building? So longer dieting, it's not like you're taking away from growth, right?
I don't think I'm gaining any more muscle. Like pretty confident of that. And that's another conversation, is like, how do you keep training like that knowing you're not going to get better? And that's a little bit of a struggle, but that's where love of process comes into play. Like I actually love training more than the results. That's not something that when I was 22, oh yeah, I love the process more than I wanted the results back then. But now it's like, okay, what would be the side effect if I stopped training the way I train now? Well, my body probably will regress. And I enjoy like how I look now. I want to maintain it as long as I can. So I'm going to still train with intent.
That makes sense.
So like whatever level, like current level of development you have right now, like I still think you should have a deep appreciation for it because you put a lot of work into where you're at now. But far too often as bodybuilders, we're on to the next thing, or we want, more and more and more. We don't just take a moment and say, you know what, I'm okay right now. There's people out there that can't even lift weights, can't even walk.
Right.
But I'm stressed out so much about trying to make the most gains that I'm making the process not as enjoyable. So it's important to kind of just take a moment and just appreciate where you're at. But yeah, protein intake, yeah, it's like I explored that. Like, part of me was like, well, okay, if I go down to 150, 145, is there going to be a negative reaction to that? I'm like, well, there's only one way to find out. So I'm not scared to explore and try things. Trial and error has been my best teacher over the last 37 years, not me reading or listening to ex-influencers say, hey, you should be here, you should do this, you should do that, yes, you can explore that. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the best thing for you. So I've always kind of like been okay with like exploring and in a sense kind of being a little bit more of an outlier in some regards. Low volume, low protein, lower fats. I'm not saying, hey, go super low fats forever, but certain stance. And the thing too with the low fat is like, is it the 30 grams of fat that's going to impact my hormone levels, or is it me getting down to 6% body fat?
Interesting.
So if I'm at 6% body fat, whether I had 80 grams of fat the whole way or 30, I don't know which way it's going to be better. I'm still probably going to be relatively in the same spot. So blood work's only going to tell me, like, right? I think of getting blood work all the way through 30 grams of fat, getting to 6%, then doing it again, 80%, like more fat, 6%. What are the differences there? But then there's also everything else maybe outside of that would need to be accounted for and basically be the same in order to get a real interpretation. We're not robots. Every prep that I've ran over the last 30 years has been different, either with protocols, little variances here and there, or just the outside influences, life dynamics. When I always see people online say, this is what got me this, and I'm like, maybe. Like, how do you know for sure? Because you're not a robot. It could be just an assumption. It could be a best guess. Maybe it is accurate. I don't know. So I always kind of have like those thought processes go through my head. Even when I post things, I'm like, I try to be careful of how I word things, like not to sound too black or white. Like I said, I could go back on Instagram a year or two ago, like, oh, I couldn't do that now. It wouldn't work for me now, but it worked for me then. That's called evolving.
Absolutely. And definitely things to learn here as far as the thought process.
It was this.
Yeah, that's the secret.
It got my brain going. See?
What you got there? What's the secret there?
Pineapple flavored water, 0 calories.
Nice. Are those the packets or is it like a specific juice you buy?
It's a packet. Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't it the Walden Farms? And then you guys had the, well, that was a popular thing. You still using those?
Oh gosh. Well, no. So 2011 was like when I was like exploring the Walden Farms. They were saying how great it was. Like the only thing that I thought was really good was the caramel syrup. And I would put it on top of I would make like my whey sludge. And then with like a scoop of like non-fat ice cream, and then I'd pour that caramel. It was like awesome. But all the other stuff, like the syrup, like maple syrup and all this salad dressings, I'm like, this stuff's garbage. And people would like just over consume it. And then they're like, I feel bloated. I'm like, well, you're putting a lot of that stuff in your system.
Yes. I remember the Cake Mafia. Do I have that right? The Cake Mafia videos with you got you and Ogus?
Godfather.
Cake Godfather and
I was irritated back then because I remember I was more popular for creating protein cakes than I was like in my actual bodybuilding. I was like kind of offended at times.
That video is popular. That one with Ogus that popular. I remember I tried that recipe.
I appreciate what he did for 3D Muscle Journey because he helped us kind of like take it to another level with the exposure.
No doubt. Does volume matter if progress is the same? For example, someone can increase their bench press by 5 pounds per month on 8 sets or 16 sets.
So why would you want to do more work than you have to? My goal is efficiency. Like to me, that's not being very efficient. That's like asking a worker like, hey, we need you to work 12 hours today, but you can get the same amount done in 8 hours. Who's going to want to stay? I mean, unless obviously you're getting paid for overtime, but in this case, you're not getting paid anymore. No worker is going to say, hey, yeah, I'll work 4 hours for free. You want to try to find